This is the Final Word Cricket Podcast. Adam Collins and Jeff Lemon. It's season 18. It's episode 15. It is a bumper show. We are into the international summer over here in the UK. We've had a bank holiday weekend, which has been very big for the Final Word and the Lord's Taverners with our marathon efforts. We'll have Hayley Fuller, completer of the Haggis. If you don't know what that is, you'll learn more later on in an interview we'll do with her after Jeff and I have had a chat about it as well. England have played Zimbabwe, the IPL pointy stage of that tournament. Ben Jones coming up later as well. India's squad for their test series against England. There's going to be cricket back in the top end of Australia, which got announced during the week as well. England's women have been taking on the Windies. Ireland have been taking on the Windies. Bangladesh are playing the UAE. Everyone's playing everyone. The county championship. There's a women's county cup. What isn't there? Hello, Jeff.
There is everything. Everything happened. It was a busy weekend. We were keeping in touch. I was keeping in touch with people in Edinburgh. I'm just going to say this off the top of the show. Sometimes there's a kind of sick that I refer to as bathtub sick, when you just, whichever end it's coming out, the best thing to do is just lie in a bathtub and turn the shower on and just Elsa from Frozen, just let it go. That's what happened to me on Friday, a few hours before I was supposed to get on a flight to join you in Edinburgh, which meant I missed that flight, which meant there were no more direct flights the next day, and I was supposed to run on the Saturday, and that couldn't happen. But for anyone who thinks I was trying to get out of it, I went out there and did it on the Sunday instead, very slowly, in a bad state. So I did my 10, but I wasn't there to see everybody else do their 10s, their 21s, their 42s, which I'm extremely sad about, because all of the news, the reports coming in over the weekend, there was such good feeling, such happiness, such team support, all of those people backing each other to do their runs, personal best times set. We're at about 24 and a bit £1,000 raised for Lord's Taverners. It's an existence affirming weekend in our universe, even if events conspired to mean that I couldn't be there in person.
Yeah, it is the best weekend of the year. The camaraderie that exists now amongst people who will be friends for life, right? Like, this is far beyond what it started off as, which was, how can we sort of raise some money for the Tavs, bolster our relationship with them, and continue to sort of do things as a community. That was 2 years ago. By year 3, this is a juggernaut. And yeah, thrilled to be within striking distance of our target. And, Hayley and I will talk a bit about that later on. But, there are people now who have been 3 times, and that, given
tradition.
It's a tradition, but the intensity of the things that you're doing together, you're putting yourself through a considerable physical endurance test. For some people, running a half marathon is like the cap of their ability, or the cap of their physicality rather, and that's a huge thing for them. In my case, like lowering my time by 5 minutes and getting under 2 hours, I worked bloody hard for that, and I probably won't. Although I did look up marathon training plans last night. It's improbable I'll get through a marathon due to all the injuries I've picked up over the years. But, that for me, that's something. But then for others, I think about Matthew Jones, the doc, who Hayley's partner. He did the 10K 2 years ago, and he wouldn't mind me saying, battled through it. Did the half marathon last year, and did his first marathon on Sunday. Probably picked a bad week for his first marathon, given his partner was running every event and got all the attention. Not that he was minded.
73 Ks, is it? Something like that.
Something absurd, and all the rest of it. So yeah, there are people who've, in so many respects,
78.
78. The number of pledges have come through to 78 on the platform that we're fundraising in, where the link's in the show notes. So yeah, it's as I say, people that have come every year, people that have rocked up for the first time, kids that have come. We had Anna and Killian, Sean McGivern's kids, run the 1,000 metres and 1,500 metres. Holly, who's been there every year with Will and Claire, who have both participated throughout as well. Her running the 2K was one of the best moments of the weekend. And Hayley on the sidelines cheering her to the line, because they've got a friendship, because they've been doing this for 3 years. Holly was 5 when she started coming. Now she's 8. Like, we feel, this connection across the board. So it's very special for us. It's very earnest and all of that. I get all of this, and I know it might sound a little bit culty, but it's all for this extraordinary charity. So to everyone who's donated already, to everyone who'll hear today's ep and donate, thank you for that. The Tabs are just so chuffed that we're able to do this with them, in conjunction with them. And yeah, it's friendships for life. There's no, I might be the host of the program that you're listening to, and thus kind of the theoretical leader of the team, but it's not like that at all. It's an egalitarian thing. We're all there with each other. It is a team, and it's a team that we're going to be recruiting for again next year, because as Sadiq from the Tabs, who did a great job coordinating efforts this year, said, the best time to sign up for your next one is when you've just completed the one you've done. So 20 people have already signed up to Edinburgh next year, and we'll try and build another massive team for 2026. So yeah, it's a huge thing for us. And the Hayley story herself is an absolute blinder. I mean, the twists and the turns on Sunday were extraordinary, far more than we encountered. The navigation process that we studiously put into place, the very fact that she made the start line of the marathon, what she had to do to get to the pack and then to run the bloody thing after doing a quick half marathon. It's just, and she's a normal person like you and me, Jeff. Hayley's not a performer, professional athlete. Hayley's not running 3-hour marathons. We did have a couple of those, by the way, from exceptional runners who do this every single day of their lives. Hayley's a person who runs for charity events and does stuff like this. And for her to go the extra mile, literally, in this case, is testament to her resolve and determination. And we love her for it.
Well, she'll be coming up later on the show. She's a great person to listen to, so I encourage you to stick around for that. Let's start with the test match, which if you listen to the daily shows, you would have got most of the info from that, a bit of wash-up coming out of it. You know, England beating Zimbabwe comfortably enough as expected, so you turn to what's happening next, what are the configurations. The Jacob Bethel bit was the most interesting bit of this, with Ben Stokes saying, put 2 and 2 together, as in, is he going to come back into the team, and then getting angry that the press reported that Ben Stokes said that he would be coming back into the team. No, I meant he'd be coming back into the squad. Okay, well, you didn't say that. So use your words, as they say in gentle parenting. Use your words, Ben. Use your words. Tell us what you mean.
Well, the thing, and Cam pointed this out on the Daily Show. I mean, there was a bit of backgrounding that went on there, not unreasonably, to clarify what Ben had said the day before.
Sure. You can't get stroppy about it.
That's right. If you are clarifying if your statement requires clarification, I know how this works. I've done this job. I've been that guy who's had to clarify the statement of the principle. It's not pretty. It's not easy, but you have to suck it up that people will, as Ben said himself, put 2 and 2 together, given that Bethel was in the 11 that played the most recent test match, right? So they have, not unreasonably, and he did very well in New Zealand, they put 2 and 2 together, and they've deduced that there might be a bit of a bat-off going on in the Zimbabwe test match, and that's perfectly reasonable reporting. For Stokes to then go out on the BBC and describe it as the agenda of the time, so, you know, that classic idea that the media has got an agenda, hardly. They are doing their best to faithfully report what's being said. So, yeah, was there some confusion in it? Do I think Ben Stokes was intentionally taking the piss? I don't at all. I think he's genuinely just failed to use enough words, like you're saying, and that's just the way things go in this business. That's just the nature of reporting and the nature of press conferences, and sometimes you don't get it bang on. Ben's been around long enough to know that, and he could have done well there to have just sucked up that it, you know, that was reported that way. I didn't get it perfectly right the other day. What I mean is this, and that would have been fine, and we wouldn't be talking about it right now.
Sam Cook, change going to come, didn't go so well for him this time around. Took that wicket early, and it was like, oh, here we go, he's away here. And then he wasn't away for the rest of the test. That was the only wicket he took in the match. 1 for 119 against modest opposition doesn't look great. I did think it was instructive, though. Put it next to Josh Tongue's analysis, 2 for 121 for Josh Tongue. So he didn't go particularly well either. Gus Atkinson didn't blow the doors off, 3 for 75 across the match. So none of the seamers bossed it. Shoaib Bashir hoovered up all the wickets in the second innings by bowling for long enough. So it wasn't a game where the seamers dominated, but people will look at the Sam Cook line and draw a conclusion from the most basic numbers.
I'll just say 2 things to that. One is that Tongue's wickets were both caught at short leg and another was dropped there. So that's what you want. You want to have a man under the lid where Josh Tongue's bowling. So, yes, analysis doesn't look great, but tick on the other front. I hope Cook's in the rotation. You know, batters typically don't get judged entirely on their first performance. Sometimes happens, but typically you get kind of 2 bites of the cherry when you take the step up. I hope he's part of the seam rotation for India, given how proficient he's been with the Duke's ball for many years. The fact that he finishes with 1 test wicket this week should not define his career. So, yeah, they'll have better days. And, yeah, I do wonder about Bashir. Like, I don't know,
it was kind of comical almost that he came in and he takes 9 in the match, like having had such a tiny and bad county season that we've talked about, barely played, hasn't taken any. And then, of course, he comes in for England and cleans up.
Yeah, through the gate was a good one. So was the one caught at slip. You like that when you're a finger spinner. I'm sure he's chuffed with some of the wickets. But I also I think ahead a little bit. Like,
Mm.
does he have the ability to tie up an end well enough that will put India under enough pressure when they rock up? That'll be the test. If he can do it against India, they'll back him in Australia. If this is a successful but kind of they won't be the Zimbabwe wickets will be judged differently to the India matches, right? We just know that. That's the way this things go. So, yeah, he's cleared the hurdle this week. Best bowling in an innings, best bowling in a match. And his overall career figures, he's taken now, I think, 58 test wickets or something. He started well numerically, but to the lived experience of watching him, it'll be what happens next that matters most.
And then Zimbabwe, there were some things, some consolations. There were some scores that were made, second innings as well. Raza getting a few, Blessing Musrabani coming back to at least get Joe Root, Harry Brook, Ben Stokes in the bag. And that wasn't the get someone out after they've made 150 bit. None of them made massive scores. That was after things went badly with the ball on day one. But they lost Richard Ngrava early with that back problem. He didn't play again. That does kick a hole in your bowling attack. And then there's the Brian Bennett piece, the 100 that he made, which was such a big moment. Not just 100, but a big 100 at Lords, at Trent Bridge, do it in front of the big crowd and have that moment in Test cricket with all the cameras, with all the focus. So there were things to take away from it for Zimbabwe.
Yeah, you got to think of it as the start of something, I reckon, with Zim's performance. It's the start of a long run up this year where they're playing far more Test cricket. That's great, but to me, it just reinforces the two-division story. Like, remember, Zimbabwe don't just not play in the World Test Championship. They don't play Test matches outside of these one-off bespoke, or maybe sometimes two Test matches where if they're into the World Test Championship, if there is two divisions, which I'm increasingly warming up to because if there is promotion relegation, I note that Andrew McDonald was asked about tiered cricket on SEN by Jared Waitley this morning, and he said he doesn't fancy it because he doesn't like the unintended consequences of two tiers, and I'm sympathetic. Clearly, we're both sympathetic to that view. But if there's legitimate promotion relegation, I know I'm banging on about this all the time, but Zimbabwe could in Division 2, and the same applies for Afghanistan, the same applies at the moment for Ireland. It could extend to Scotland as well. That might actually create the type of competitive tension that we got during the World Cup Super League era, admittedly one cycle of it. But look what the Dutch were able to do in the last 50-over World Cup. Look at what Afghanistan were able to do in the last 50-over World Cup, because they had 3 or 4 years of playing top-flight cricket. That's what Zim need to be integrated within. Same applies in women's cricket with the ICC Women's Championship. Look at the way that Ireland and Pakistan and Sri Lanka have developed because they're playing more of it. So, yeah, this is hopefully the start of a story for Zimbabwe, and they shouldn't be judged in isolation for totally shitting the bed on day one. Let's not brush over it. They could not have bowled any worse on day one.
Although an Australian coach saying he doesn't believe in tiered Test cricket doesn't mean a whole lot when Australia don't play Zimbabwe. They don't play Bangladesh effectively. They don't play Ireland. They certainly don't play Afghanistan. So effectively that tiered system already exists. It's just not formalised.
Well, I mean, the WTC means that there's a group of 9, right? I think what he was trying to say was let's not reduce the top table. I'd take on faith that Andrew McDonald would see the world similar to the way you and I would.
I hope so, but the country he coaches won't play those teams.
Well, they have to in some respects because they have to play not the non WTC, but obviously there are teams that are lower down the rankings, and that Bangladesh series will take place next year. I know we've talked about it forever. There's no way out because they're in the World Championship. If they weren't in the WTC, I'm sure they'd cancel it, but they kind of have to play it now.
But first time since 2017. Yeah. They'll minimise any obligation to play against those sides that they deem as unprofitable and not worth their time. So it just seems effectively the tier exists. There's that interesting little bit with Sikander Raza ending up in the Pakistan Super League the next day.
Unbelievable scenes. So he's gone straight from the Test match, driven to Birmingham, then jumps on a flight to Dubai, I think the reporting was. Then went from there to Abu Dhabi, caught a connecting flight to Lahore, was picked in the PSL final. Now, he's been in and out of that tournament a couple of times with travel commitments, dropped in. His plane landed 10 minutes before the toss. They put him on the team sheet for Lahore, got to the ground during the first innings, then went out and hit 22 not out from 7 balls, including the winning runs, and ends up a PSL winner with Lahore. They defeated the David Guetta, whatever they're called, in a bit of a thriller, 200 apiece. But yeah, imagine landing off the plane. It's Severio Rocca when Sav's wife had a baby and they put in a they put him in a motorcade to get to the ground to play a game of footy. This is the more extreme example of that.
This is peculiar in a range of ways here, in that, like, he was batting on that last day. So presumably if the test goes to a fourth day, he doesn't make it to this game.
That's true. Yeah.
So that creates there's that incentive structure again. If he's 120 not out, and they're 9 wickets down at the end, getting close to the end on day 3, and they're still 200 behind and whatever, then I don't know. Is there much incentive to? Oh well, I'm going to lose the game anyway. I've got to score. If he's 98 not out, he probably stays on for day 4. But if he's 102 not out, does he? Or does he?
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those things that's funny until it's not. But yeah, because you're right. When it was clear they were going to lose the test, he was personally incentivized for them to lose in 3. I'm not questioning his integrity, by the way.
I think while he was batting, he was personally incentivized to try to get a test 100 in England, because he was 60, he was in the 50s and then got to 60, and it was like, okay, well, this is possible, this is on. But if you'd already achieved that, say, by the end of the day, and there wasn't going to be much point going on, I don't know.
There is some red ball cricket. There's no red ball cricket in county championship this week. The run has ended. We'll talk about that later. But the England Lions are playing India A in a couple of warm-up matches, which is not for nothing because there are a number of players who are in the squads who might end up playing in the test matches that start on the 20th of June. So a match in Canterbury from the 30th of May, then they go down to Northants on the 6th of June. England's squad includes Chris Wokes, who's on the comeback trail and bowled by all reports beautifully against Worcestershire on the weekend. And James Rue's captain, so a nod to the future there. Of course, Rue was in that senior squad last week as a spare bat. So players like Jordan Cox, I keep saying it, Sonny Baker. I would not be at all surprised if Sonny Baker plays Test cricket this year. Josh Hull, who has been picked for England in a Test match already, and Chris Wokes. So I don't know. I'm not saying...
I'd be surprised if Rocky Flintoff played Test cricket this year, the way they go. And also, it sounds like an amazing, 50s or 60s boxing bout. Sonny Baker versus Rocky Flintoff, in the red corner, in the blue corner, coming out, punching gloves. Let's have a good, clean bout, gentlemen.
Yeah. Speaking of A-Series, Jeff, I sort of nodded this off the top, and it does relate to Bangladesh, our previous topic. There's going to be an A-Series this winter in Darwin for the first time in 19 years. So this was quite a thing in the early mid-2000s where they would use Darwin more regularly. But yeah, when Sri Lanka A visit, they'll play Australia A in a couple of 4-day games in August, 350 over games. That's in July, my apologies. Then in August, South Africa will play some 1-dayers there. And it's all related to the fact that these Bangladesh test matches have been shuffled into the August of next year. And the reason they've done that is to build space in the calendar to go to India in January before they come back for the sesquicentenary, having played New Zealand earlier in the Aussie summer. Quite complicated, but the guts of it is there will be top-end test matches next year for the first time in, 21 years, Jeff? Was 2004 the last top end? Would have been against
Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. Bangladesh the previous year. Yeah, Sri Lanka 04.
So you could consider this something of a test event. They'll play, these 4-day games. They'll play the South African 1-dayers where Darwin get a lick of the ice cream. And then they'll play a test match there in 2026.
And you know what I say? Go. Especially if you're from Melbourne, if you're from Adelaide, if you're in the southern part of the country, it's cold, it's miserable, it's July, it's August. And not just for the test matches next year. Go to these A games. Like one of my favourite cricket memories is watching Phil Hughes carve a double hundred off the South Africans at an A game in Townsville at Tony Island Stadium, as it was then named after the Toyota dealership down the road. I can't remember what it's called. Is it Great Barrier Reef Stadium? Was that the one in Mackay? I can never remember.
I'll defer to you on that one.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun to go to. You go to these A games. It's low key. It's no pressure. You're not getting a proctological exam by security just to get inside the ground. You could buy a can of Forex for a couple of bucks, or at least you could then. I don't know about now. And just enjoy your day. Enjoy watching the next gen players coming up and doing their thing. Darwin, it's a beautiful town. It's a strange and interesting place. Don't ask anybody too many questions about where they're from or why they ended up there. You just keep your thoughts to yourself and enjoy the warmth and the sunshine. I highly recommend it.
And look, I'd love it to be the start of something where in the next FTP, more test cricket is scheduled for the Australian winter in the top end where conditions are perfectly suitable for it. The challenge is that TV broadcasts are in the middle of footy season. So that's you go into the weeds on this. the ABC covered one of the test matches in 2004 due to the footy commitments. I think it might have been 03, one or the other, maybe both years. So it is difficult. I'm not making excuses for them, by the way, but it is difficult for Fox or Seven to then do these things side by side, their enormous footy production, which is out of season with cricket. So I get it, but I still
That's why Cricket Australia bailed, because the broadcasters hate it.
Yeah, so I still like to think there'd be some creative solution here. Like, is there a way where another broadcaster might sign up to an arrangement that covers Test cricket only when it's played in the months of July and August, or something like that into the future?
Well, I will say the fact technology's moved on a fair bit in 20 years. So in terms of digital, in terms of on-demand stuff, streaming what people want, there's better facility for side-by-side streaming now. And if you've got a Test match during footy season, there'll be a couple of weekend days, but there'll be weekday spots as well where there won't be football on, and it'll be played during the day. Like, you might have a Thursday night game or a Friday night game, but you're not going to have a Thursday or Friday action. So in some ways that could work really well, having a test match going through until 6:30 in the evening leading into your football broadcast. That might actually tally beautifully.
Actually flip it around. It could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday test cricket, because Thursdays and Fridays are footy at night, aren't they? Maybe you and I found a solution for them.
I think it's mostly production crew availability is the big hiccup of getting trucks up there to be able to do the games.
The India senior men's squad has been named for the England
series.
This is
tasty.
There's a lot going on here. So Shubman Gill, the chosen one, he's been long since seen as the successor to Virat Kohli at
Princely.
Princely, yes.
He's got the sort of Ganguly vibes, the patrician, the sort of haughty demeanour, the height, the nose to look down everybody at.
Yeah, well, looks the part, doesn't he? He looks every bit the Indian captain aesthetically, like a very good-looking guy, plays beautifully, has got
in that old school kind of Tiger Pataudi sort of, Jayasma sort of way.
And he's got a high ceiling. And look, his captaincy experience isn't accrued from like India A teams or from first-class cricket. It's from the IPL and the Gujarat team, which is played under him. So it's a very modern Indian cricketing story in some respects, but getting the job at 25, which is in some respects perfect if you're going to have a team that is in a bit of a rejuvenation stage. The option would have otherwise been to have made Jasprit Bumrah the full-time captain, but Ajit Agarkar, when doing his press conference as chief selector or whatever they call it at the moment, explained that they don't anticipate that Bumrah can play full series anymore. It's more a pick and choose thing. Like, he might get through 3, so you can't make him full-time captain when he won't be able to do the job across full series due to his ongoing issues with his back. So I get it. And that's why he's not vice captain either. Rishabh Pant's got the number 2 job. So that's the main structural piece, Rishabh Pant. But there's far more below the surface, Jeff, about what will be a radically transformed top 4, because they don't have those 2 blokes in Rohit and Kohli on the team sheet anymore.
Yes. So a couple of things that we loved from a final word perspective. Sai Sudarshan getting into the squad, and a very good shout to play in the 11 as well, with those spaces opening up, whether that's top of the order. Not too sure how things are going to go. They're sort of chatting that Gill might bat at 4. I mean, he's opened and then batted 3, but he's sort of seeing, well, if Kohli's made way in the middle order, maybe that's his job to be the number 4 now.
I reckon Sai's batted in every spot in the top 6 for Surrey. If that helps. Well, he's probably the first Indian. No, we've had Pujara on the pod, of course. I was going to say the first Indian Test cricketer who's done the final word. But he's a lovely young guy, and look, credit to him for prioritising playing in the county championship for a couple of stints with Surrey, because now he's not rocking up to England with no experience against one of these dukes. He's done it, and he's had some success as well. So I think this is a reward for planning with him. I know he hasn't got outrageous first-class numbers, but he's done enough, made 100 with the India A recently. He's the logical next guy in the pecking order. Yeah,
I suspect he bats 3, because I suspect they go KL Rahul to open with Yashasvi and do it that way if he plays. And then the other one, the even more exciting one for me, really, the comeback trail here, Karun Nair, maker of the 100, only Test century, a triple, got dropped unceremoniously. He's back, baby, which is, I mean, it's very stiff on Sarfaraz Khan not being in the squad at all, but it was also so unfair on Karun Nair when he was pushed out so quickly to begin with. He's played in England a bunch. He hasn't played a lot of games, but he's had a few different stints here and there, made an unbeaten 100 last year in England. And maybe more important than that, he had a really big Ranji season. He made 400s in 9 games in the last Indian domestic season. So he's got runs. He's averaged above 50 during that last stint, and he's won himself a second chance.
Yeah, look, he's played 10 games of county championship cricket across 2 seasons. I return to my previous point. Like, he's given himself a chance to be in the shop window for this particular series because of experience in these particular conditions. When India were here it was more acute in 2018, but last time too. The Duke's ball in seaming conditions is a different thing altogether. We know that from talking to top flight cricketers when they play over here. They have to adjust. Marcus Harris spoke to me about it on the pod only a few weeks ago about his first experiences in England were as a test cricketer, whereas now he's played 5 years in championship cricket. It better equips him against the Duke's ball. So, yeah, Karun Nair and Sai Sudarshan are both well placed on that front. It's kind of interesting with Gill, just to return to that for a brief moment, that it's not long since he was dropped in Australia, and he didn't do well over here against the moving ball. He's only got 100 away from home. Like, it's not a clear cut thing that he's always weirdly in their best 11. I mean, I get it. He's a player of prodigious talent and scope, and I'd be making him captain too if it were me making the decision, improbable as that would be. So I understand the rationale for it, but he's at an interesting point in his career as a batter now to take on the armband.
It is a backing. They could have gone, a safe option might have been KL Rahul, because they could have gone experienced player, good away from home, someone to be relied on, has captained plenty domestically. Do that as a safety, as a stopgap for a year or two, and then move on to your next gen player after that. So it is a vote of confidence. They're saying he won't be dropped for a while, so maybe that gives him the freedom to flourish.
Also, all-rounders galore. Jadeja, a lot of experience over here. Washington Sundar, who visited last time India were here. Shardul Thakur, who played a crucial role at the Oval back in 2021. And Nitish Kumar Reddy, who we've all seen in Australia over the Aussie summer as the next big thing as far as Indian all-rounders are concerned. He's a star in the making if he isn't one already. So that allows for one other specialist spinner, which is Kuldeep Yadav, which makes sense. We're kind of forgetting we're in the post-Ashwin world, Jeff, right? Like, because Ashwin left mid-series, it doesn't feel as jarring as it otherwise might, but it will feel. I know Ashwin didn't always get the opportunity here in England, with Jadeja often preferred, but still, not having him in that dressing room will be a major thing for this new team.
And Jadeja will have the flexibility to bat anywhere from 5 to 8. They could do a bunch of different configurations there. So I suppose had Ashwin been there, he might have found himself in the same position of getting squeezed out by the way that they jigged the team, given Jadeja's batting. Mohammad Shami not in the squad is the other major news point. The body didn't come right in time, so they've got a battery of fast bowlers, a raft of the ones coming in after Bumrah and after Siraj. So they've got Prasidh Krishna in there to give it a bounce. They've got Akashdeep who can swing the ball, and they've got Arshdeep Singh as well. Right arm swing, left arm swing, all of the options available. It's time for us to take a